knowing that my baby was going to come out and they were literally going to take him away and I wasn't going to see him for 2 days gave me extreme anxiety. Hi, Natalia here, and in today's video I want to share with you why I decided at 28 weeks pregnant to change my entire birth plan and go from a hospital birth with a OBGYN to an all-natural at-home birth with a midwife. I want to share with you why I made that decision, how it all went down, and the circumstances. And I want to share some pros, cons, and would I do it again next time with baby number 2? Are we going to the hospital or are we doing it at home? The way it all started was I went to my appointment at 26 weeks pregnant to my OBGYN. My pregnancy with my son, it was during 2020, so it was mid-pandemic, and they were changing all types of policies in the hospital. Did you have to wear a mask? They sent your husband home. They were testing everybody, whatever, So I asked my doctor, I'm like, hey, what's going on right now? Like, what's the policy? What's going on with the moms giving birth at the hospital, right? Like, are they testing? Are they sending husbands home? Are they allowing anyone in there with them? Etc. Pretty normal questions when you're about to give birth in, 14 weeks. He told me at that time they had just changed the policy at the hospital. It was around July 15th, and they were testing everybody, even if you were asymptomatic. And if you tested positive for COVID, they would send your husband home. And as soon as your baby came out, they were taking the babies into quarantine. They would send you to your own quarantine, so you weren't going to see your baby until discharge. Basically, taking your baby away for 2 days, potentially more, depending, if your baby ends up in the NICU or anything like that. But until discharge, you wouldn't see your baby, or basically your husband. I remember I was like, well, that's not making me feel good, and it's definitely not making me want to give birth here because that's insane, right? And he was like, I know, that's the policy. The hospital decides and we don't really get a say. And I was like, all right. Knowing that I could be asymptomatic and test positive meant that regardless, I was not going to know until I was there what was going to happen, right? That gave me an insane anxiety to not know whether I was going to be able to have my husband there while I was giving birth. And the thought of my baby, my first baby, this was my first time. I didn't know what to expect already. You already have anxieties related to birth. Knowing that there was a possibility that my baby was going to come out and they were literally going to take him away and I wasn't going to see him for 2 days gave me extreme anxiety. I'm a planner, I'm an overthinker, I like to have my ducks aligned and stuff, but I don't typically have terrible anxiety. That's the moment that I was dreaming of, my baby coming out and seeing him and just holding him and skin to skin and just that's what I was dreaming about. That's the magical moment that the baby comes out. You materialize this beautiful life into earth. And just thinking that they were going to take my baby, who the hell knows where, and not seeing my baby for 2 whole days after it came out of my body, that was just unacceptable for me. I could not allow myself to admit that was my only option. I was like, there has to be a better way. Really quick, if you're enjoying my story, please give this video a like and consider subscribing for a little more content like this. So basically, I knew of this friend who had delivered their baby at home. I gave her a call, talked to her. She highly recommended her midwife, and I looked her up, had amazing reviews all over online. So I reached out literally the next day after my doctor's appointment where he told me that at 26 weeks. I reached out the next day. So it was July 16th. And I spoke to her really quick and I was like, listen, I don't know if I can even switch care at this point. I explained the situation to her and, my medical history and whatever it is. And she was like, okay, that's fine. I scheduled an in-person consultation. And in that in-person consultation, I remember asking 1 million questions. Literally, have any babies died in your care? How many people do you send to the hospital? Do you call freaking 911 all the time? What's going on, right? Because at this point, yes, I had seen some videos of people giving birth at home, and I had seen people very well prepared and people that were just alone giving birth at home. So, obviously, I was very open to the idea of giving birth at home, but it wasn't necessarily my first pick being my first baby, like, you know, my first time giving birth, like, you don't know what to expect. And it seems a little scary. It's not like the norm, right? So you're not used to considering giving birth at home. However, I think that in the back of my mind, I've always been interested in a home birth. Always been open to it, always thought it would be cool, but always had those fears that are put in by, you know, like, in general, like, oh, birthing is so hard and you need an epidural, and if something goes wrong, like, you need to be in the hospital, blah, 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 like all those things that, you know, you think in your head, like, you don't want to risk the life of your baby, obviously, and do something that's not safe, right? However, after my consultation with her, when she answered all my questions and we talked about, you know, about the home birth, and because I had already done a lot of research to learn of ways to give myself a better chance and opportunity to have a natural birth, a lot of the things that you'll learn about if you do research is, you know, about the woman's body and how the birthing process works and what is happening to your body and in your body, like to your baby while you're in labor and stuff like that. And when you learn all those things, it all starts kind of making sense. And I am more of a natural person and, you know, like, try to, like, take care of things naturally and believe in, you know, the body healing naturally and things like that. So it's not like super far off that I picked a home birth, but it really, really, really was not in my plans to do that. But it clearly was in the plans by, you know, whatever you call it, the higher power, God, the universe. This was part of my journey and what I needed to do. And clearly it was like, as soon as I talked to her and had my interview, and I was like, all right, well, like, this makes me feel so much better and gives me so much more peace of mind than thinking that there's a possibility that my baby comes out and they take him away for 2 days. Like, that was just not acceptable for me. So that's basically how it went down, and that's how I decided to have a home birth. And I went ahead and I told the midwife, listen, let's go ahead. We're going to book you. We're going to do it. And, you know, from there was just getting prepared. And I had already been preparing to hopefully have a natural birth. I was open to the idea of an epidural. So obviously, like, this shut that door. It's like, okay, well, no longer am I going to get an epidural, but I was fine with that. I was already doing, like, you know, hypnobirthing, and I was exercising or doing squats and walking a lot, and, you know, prenatal yoga, all those things that you do to, like, try to get yourself ready for birth, I guess. I was doing those already, so it was pretty exciting. It was a little scary because I had to change my entire plan. But to me, once I make a decision and I can plan for that decision and I can, like, have everything ready for it to go that way, like, I was like, all right. I officially hired the midwife and said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do the home birth at 28 weeks, meaning I had 12 weeks left of my pregnancy. Unless I went over my due date, but, you know, to prepare for this home birth and to prepare my brain to this whole new birth plan, because this is it's a major change, right? Like, you're thinking you're going to go to the hospital and everything's going to be taken care of. Now you're literally, like, having to get all the supplies, doing the home visit was shortly after my first visit to the midwife because I was so close to my due date, basically already. I had my baby on October 20 of 2020. And they were no longer doing that at the hospital. They were, like, I think letting the moms, if they were asymptomatic and they tested positive, they were, like, just making them wear a mask or something, and they could breastfeed and do everything normal, and they could have the baby in their room, which I'm glad they changed that because that's outrageous. But at that point, I had already switched my care to the midwife, and I was no longer worried about what they were doing at the hospital because this was my new plan and this is what I was going to do, right? So I had my home birth. Thankfully, everything went very well. I was in labor for about 20 hours, and I delivered my baby at home. I loved the experience. It was beautiful. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I feel that it truly was meant to be for me, for everything in the timeline to work exactly how I went, because I don't even know how long that policy was implemented in the hospital. If I didn't see my doctor for those couple weeks, then maybe it was only a couple weeks, right? And maybe they change it right back. I would have just delivered at the hospital, and who knows obviously what my experience would have been. Maybe it would have been a great experience, but I really feel like this was what was meant for me. This was what was meant to happen for me, for our family, for our birth. It was the most beautiful experience. I was so comfortable and allowed to labor at home and in my space, in my comfort zone. And I had my husband there the entire time as a support mechanism and helping me through my contractions and through my labor. And it was just such a beautiful experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I know that having a home birth is not for everybody. I know that a lot of people have those fears and think it's dangerous and all these things. However, the more educated you become on a subject, the more rational and logic that you learn about a certain situation. It gives you perspective, and it gives you the tools and the knowledge to really make a decision from an empowered place and not from fear and not from unknowing. And it was so beautiful, and it was super empowering, and it made me feel so strong and empowered to birth my baby at home, obviously with the care of a medical professional who is 100% trained in birthing babies. And I felt safe, I felt comfortable, I felt empowered, and I felt like my body and my say and how I wanted to handle things was important to my provider, which I can say I don't feel like is always the case at the hospital. That's just out of nowhere because I didn't give birth at the hospital. However, I do have experiences in the hospital. I have had surgeries and other procedures, and I have interacted with plenty of doctors in my 33 years. So I can tell you that I don't always feel that they are actually listening to your needs and listening to your body or to your intuition or what you think or feel, you know, it's going on with your body. The doctors aren't always super open. I have also heard of a lot of stories of nurses not upholding your birth plan or your birth wishes, you know, like what you tell them that you want. When you're laboring, when you're in the middle of it, it's very difficult to advocate for yourself. Like, you want someone that is there advocating for you. Dude, it's intense. So you're not really worried about telling someone, do this, or my plan's this, or respect my wishes. You're just kind of gonna go with the flow and go with what people tell you and trust the things, because you're in pain and you're trying to deal with the pain on your terms, and you're trying to kind of block out distractions. So I just cannot think of a better way than having people that I know I can trust, that they are considering my wants as much as they possibly can. Providers that respect me and respect my wishes, and being in a comfortable setting where I'm being allowed to labor at my own pace and in whichever way I want it. So I could move around however I want. They would suggest things and I could pick if I wanted to do them or not, or I could ask for alternatives. And I don't think that's always the case at the hospital. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical provider. I'm not giving you any medical advice. This is my experience. Basically, giving birth at home was wonderful. I loved it. All pros. Having visits with the midwife was wonderful. I liked it. She's not my best friend or anything. She's just my medical provider for my birth. I do like her. And I really do like my doctor as well. I didn't have an issue with my doctor whatsoever. I love my doctor. I've been seeing him. Literally, I started seeing this doctor when I was 18 years old, thinking I wanted to see the same doctor for a long time before I wanted to get pregnant, because when I went to have a baby, I wanted to have a doctor that I trusted. And so I started seeing this OBGYN when I was 18. Within mind, that shows you how much I like to plan and overthink and overanalyze everything. Yes, at 18, I was like, I need to see not just a gynecologist, I need to see an OBGYN, because I want them to deliver my baby whenever I'm ready, whether it's at 25, 30, it doesn't matter. Whenever that is, I want my doctor to deliver my baby. So you can believe that I had ample confidence in my doctor, and I liked my doctor a lot. However, the doctors don't make all the decisions of what happens in the hospitals. the hospital policies dictate a lot of the practices that the doctors follow. And I had already ran into concerns of things that I asked my doctor. I'm like, hey, can we delay the cord clamping, or can we do this or that? And some of them he would say, yes, you may do that. And some of them he would say, no, the hospital does not allow. We're only allowed ABC. So I was going to have to follow those procedures. And when I was with my midwife, I'm able to have a conversation. She explains, and a lot of the procedures that I was wanting to follow are normal, common practices for midwives, because this is how they handle it, because they do take a more natural approach to birth. So it was more in alignment with what I wanted originally to begin with. Being at the hospital was just going to give me that peace of mind of, like, obviously if anything goes wrong, like, you're right there. But it was also going to take away peace of mind that I was going to be at the hospital and be at the mercy of whichever nurse walks into your door, which can be an amazing nurse, or it can be a rude nurse who doesn't care and it's going to tell you, no, that's not what we do here, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? So, like, everything has pros and cons. I cannot think of a better way to bring my baby into this world than in the comfort of our home, where he was already so loved before he even arrived. And it was really amazing to see the power of my body, to see the power of my mind, and to really just, you know, it was amazing. I don't know what else to say. Cons, I guess, you know, yes, we had to clean up a lot of the stuff. And by we, I mean my husband, because I didn't really have to clean anything up. The midwife does take care of many of the cleanup part of the birth, but obviously you're still home, so, you know, you gotta cook and wash dishes and stuff. I hear that obviously being at the hospital is great because you don't have to do all those things. You don't have to worry about cleaning dishes or anything like that. You're just there and they're cleaning everything for you. That's great. You do have to take care of that at home. And, you know, I hear some other cons about being home, but I honestly can tell you that there wasn't many cons for me. Like, for me, they were all pros, and I loved giving birth at home. And I guess that brings me to the last question of my video that I'm going to answer. Will I give birth at home again? I am currently 33 weeks pregnant with my second baby. I'll show you my belly. Let me see if I can show you my belly. Oh yeah, there's my belly. That's my baby in there. And we are having a surprise gender. So basically we don't know if it's a boy or girl until the baby's born. Will I have another home birth? Absolutely. Yes. There is no question that I will have a home birth if everything goes well and there's no need to go to the hospital. I shall not go to the hospital. I will, my birth plan, it's to labor at home and have my baby at home. And I am using the same midwife that I used for my first baby, and I am very excited, and I do have lots of things to get ready for my home birth, and I'm hoping to share a little bit with you what I'm doing to prepare in other videos. And I am going to have a video that goes more into my first birth experience at home, like the actual birthing story. So look for that. I am hoping to share a little bit about like preparing and what you have to buy, the supplies and what it entails. And hopefully I can document some of the second birth a little bit more in detail so that I can share with all of you moms out there thinking about possibly having a home birth, because I think that having my baby at home was one of the most beautiful and empowering things that I have ever done. And don't get me wrong, it was painful and extremely challenging, and that's what made it so worth it. It was super challenging, but at the end of it, you have a baby. I mean, it's like the ultimate reward, right? So it's like the ultimate challenge for your body, for your mind, for your soul, and it's the ultimate reward also for your body, for your mind, and for your soul. It's just so freaking beautiful, and I wish more people would consider it. I know it's not for everybody, and like I said, I'm not a medical provider, so I'm not suggesting that you have a baby at home, and I am not suggesting it's for you, or shaming anybody for going to the hospital. Going to the hospital is great. Like I already said in the beginning of this video, I was planning on going to the hospital, and I would have never planned a home birth if those specific circumstances didn't make me. And I'm so glad that happened. I'm so glad that I was pregnant at the moment that I was pregnant, and I'm so glad that I was delivering in the circumstances that I was delivering. And I'm so glad that everything happened in this way that made me choose to have a home birth, because it was the best experience of my life. It's the best possible way that I can think it could have gone, if that makes sense. That's all I have to share with you today. I hope that you get something out of this video, whether you choose to have a home birth or not. Hopefully this is a positive video for you, and you can take some of the things that I said into consideration and do a little bit more of your own research and learn more about home births and about the challenges, but also the rewards of and the reasons to labor at home. If you watched until the end, thank you so much for watching. If you're pregnant right now and you're having a baby, I'm so excited for you, and I just send you all the blessings and the best of luck with your journey and your pregnancy and your delivery. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.